Hi Mark, my name is Phoebe. My Chinese name is Xu Jialin. My student number is 36. My level in NCUE is sophomore, and I am major in English. Today I'm going to read a speech from Manu Prakash, Life-Saving Scientific Tools Made of Paper. So I love making tours and sharing them with people. I remember as a child, my first tour I built was actually a microscope that I built by stealing lenses from my brother's eyeglasses. He wasn't that thrilled, but maybe because of that moment, 30 years later, I'm still making microscopes. And the reason I built these tours is for moments like this. Video, girl. I have black things in my hair. Manu Prakash. This is a score in a Bay Area video. The the living world far supersedes our imagination of how things actually work. Video boy. Oh my god. Right. Oh my god. I hadn't realized this would be such a universal phrase. Over the last 2 years in my lab, we built 50,000 scopes and shipped them to 130 countries in the world. At no cost to the kids we send to them, this year alone, with the support of our community, we are planning to ship 1 million microscopes to kids around the world. What does that do? It creates an inspiring community of people around the world, learning and teaching each other, from Kenya to Kampala and Kathmandu to Kansas. And one of the phenomenal things that I love about the sense of community. There's a kid in Nicaragua teaching others how to identify mosquito species that carry dengue by looking at the larvae under the microscope. There's a pharmacologist who came up with a new way to detect fake drugs anyway. There is a girl who wondered, how does glitter actually work? And discovered the physics of crystalline formation in glitter. There is an Argentinian doctor who's trying to do feel cervical cancer screening with this tool. And yours very truly find a species of flea that was stuck inside my hair in my foot 1 centimeter deep. Now you might think of this as anomalies, but there is a method to this madness. I call this figure science, the idea of sharing the experience of science and not just the information. To remind you, there are 1 billion people on this planet who live with absolutely no infrastructure, no roads, no electricity, and thus no health care. Also, there are 1 billion kids on this planet that live in poverty. How are we supposed to inspire them for the next generation of solution makers? They are healthcare workers that we put on the line to fight infectious diseases, to protect us with absolutely bare minimal tools and resources. So, as a lab at Stanford, I think of this from the context of frugal science and building solutions for these communities. Often we think about being able to do diagnosis under the tree of breed. I'll tell you two examples today of new tools. One of them starts in Uganda in 1213 on a field trip to detect so, um, schistosomiasis with false scabs. I made a minor observation. In a clinic in a far remote area, I saw a centrifuge being used as a doorstop. I mean, quite literally, the doorstop. And I asked them and then say, oh, we don't actually have electricity, so this piece of junk is good as a doorstop. Centrifuges, for some of you who don't know, are the pinnacle tool to be able to do sample processing. You separate components of blood or body fluids to be able to detect and identify pathogens. But centrifuges are bulky, Bulky example costs around $1,000 and really hard to carry out in the field. And of course, they don't work without power. Sounds familiar? So we started thinking about solving this problem, and I came back, kept on thinking about toys. Now I have a few with me here. I first started with yo-yos, and I'm a terrible yo-yo thrower because these objects spin. We wondered, could we actually use the physics of these objects to be able to build centrifuges? This was possibly the worst throw I could make, but you might start realizing if you start exploring the space of toys. We tried these spinning tops, and then in the lab, we stumbled upon this wonder. It's a whirling, or a buzzer, or a rondo, a couple of strings and a little disc. And if I push, it spins. How many of you have played this with this as a kid? This is called a button on a string. Okay, maybe 50% of you. Why you didn't realize that this little object is the oldest toy in the history of mankind. 5,000 years ago, we have found relics of this object hidden around on our planet. Now the irony is we actually don't understand how this little thing works. That's when I get excited. So we got back to work, wrote down a couple of equations. If you take the input torque that you put in, you take the drag on this disk, and the twist drag on these strings, you should be able to mathematically solve this. This is not the only equation in my talk. 10 pages of math later, we could actually write down the complete analytical solution for this dynamic system. And out comes what we call paper fuge. That's my postdoc Sut Bonla, who's the co-inventor of paper fuge. And to the left, you see all the centrifuges that we're trying to replace. This little object that you see right here is a disc, a couple of strings, and a handle. And when I spin and I push, it starts to spin. Now, when you do the math, when you calculate the RPM for this object mathematically, we should be able to go all the way to a million RPM. Now, this is a little twist in a human anatomy because the resonance frequency of this object is about 10 hertz. And if you've ever played a piano, you can go higher than 2 or 3 hertz. The maximum speed we've been able to achieve with this object is not 10,000 RPM, not 50,000 RPM, 120,000 RPM. That's equal to 30,000 G-forces. If I was to stick you right here and have a spin, you would think about the types of forces you will experience. One of the factors of a tour like this is to be able to do diagnosis with this. So I'm going to do a quick demo here, where this is a moment where I'm going to make a little finger prick, and a tiny drop of blood is going to come up. If you don't like blood, you don't have to look at it. Here's a little lancet. These lancets are available everywhere, completely passive. And if I've had breakfast today that didn't hurt at all, okay, I take a little capillary with a drop of blood. Now this drop of blood has answers. That's why I'm interested in it. I might actually tell me whether I have malaria right now or not. I take a little capillary and you see it starts weakening. I'm going to draw a little more blood, and that's good enough for right now. Now I just seal this capillary by putting it in clad. And now let's seal the sample. We're going to take the sample, melt it on paper fuge, a little piece of tape to make a seal cavity. So now the sample is completely enclosed, and we are ready for a spin. I'm pushing and pulling with this object. I'm going to load this up, and you see the object start spinning. Unlike the regular centrifuge, this is the counter-rotating centrifuge. It goes back and forth, And now I'm charging it up, and you see it builds momentum. And now I don't know if you can hear this. 30 seconds of this, and I should be able to separate all the blood cells with the plasma, and the ratio of those blood cells to plasma. Applause. Already, if you see right here, if you focus on this, you should be able to see a separated volume of blood and plasma. And the ratio of that actually tells me whether I might be anemic. Anemic. One of the aspects of this is we build many types of paraphores. This one allows us to identify a malaria parasites by running them for a little longer, and we can identify malaria parasites that are in the blood that we can separate out and detect with something like a centrifuge. Another version of this allows me to separate nucleic acids to be able to do nucleic acid tests out in the field itself. Here's another version that allows me to separate bug samples. And then finally, something new that we have been working on to be able to implement the entire multiplex takes on an object like this. So where you do the sample preparation and chemistry in the same object. Now this is all good, but when you start thinking about this, you have to share these tools with people. And one of the things we did is we just got back from Madagascar. This is what clinical trials for malaria look like. Laughter. You can do this while having coffee. But most importantly, this is a village 6 hours from anywhere. We are in a room with one of the senior members of the community and a healthcare worker. It really is this portion of the work that excites me the most. That smile, to be able to share simple but powerful tools with people around the world. Now I forgot to tell you this, that out of the cost me 20 cents to make. Okay, in the negative time I have left, I'll tell you about the most recent, laughter. Invention from our lab is called a buzz. The idea that all of you could help us find mosquito. You could all help us track our enemies. These are enemies because they cause malaria, Zika, chikungunya, dengue. But the challenge is that we actually don't know where our enemies are. The world map for where mosquitoes are is missing. So we started thinking about this. There are 3,500 species of mosquitoes, and they are all very similar. Some of them are so identical that even an entomologist cannot identify them under the microscope. But they have an Achilles heel. This is what mosquitoes flirting with each other looks like. That's a male chasing a female. They're actually talking to each other with their wing beat frequencies, buzzing sound, and thus they have a signature. We realized that using a regular phone, a $5 to $10 flip phone, how many remember what this object is? Laughter. We can record this acoustic signature from mosquito, and I'll tell you exactly how to do this. I caught some mosquitoes outside, and like Bill, I'm not going to release them. Laughter. But I'll tell you how to record from this. All you do is tap them and then they fly. You can first taste. I can actually hear that. And you bring your phone, which has microphones. It turns out the mics are so damn good already. Even on regular phones, that you can pick up this near field signature. And since I'm out of time, let me just play the recording that I made a day ago. Mosquitoes buzz. This old charming sound that you heard before that you all love. One of the contexts of this is that being able to do this with a regular cell phone allows us to map mosquito species. Using a flip phone, we map one of the largest acoustic databases with 22 to 20 species of mosquitoes that carry human pathogens. And from this and machine learning, anybody who uploads the data, we can identify and to the probability of what species of mosquito you are actually with. We call this a buzz. And if any of you want to sign up, just go to the website. Let me close with something that's very important and dear to my heart. One of the challenges today is we have terrible problems. We have a billion people with absolutely no health care, climate change, biodiversity loss, on and on and on. We hope that science is going to provide the answer. But before you have this theater today, I want you to promise one thing. We're going to make science accessible, not just to the people who can afford it, but a billion others who can't. Let's make science and scientific literacy a human right. The moment that you pass the tingling feeling of making a discovery to another child, you're enabling them to be the next group of people who will actually solve these problems. Thank you. Applause.